This conference will now be recorded.
So connected lookup means, so if the lookup transformation is connected to any other transformation, or it is connected from any other transformation through the link, then that is called connected lookup. Unconnected means there should not be any link from lookup transformation to any other transformations. So okay, so then that is unconnected lookup. So if there is no link, how we are going to pass the input value to the unconnected lookup means, inside the expression transformation, we have to create one variable port. So inside that variable port, we have to write colon LKP dot unconnected lookup transformation name. Within brackets, we have to write the input port name, which from which port we want to pass the input value. So that port we have to write inside the brackets. Okay. So like that, we can pass the input value to the unconnected lookup transformation. As soon as that lookup statement receives the input value, it will start looking for the match. It will start looking for the unconnected lookup transformation, which we have written inside that lookup statement. So as soon as that transformation found, it will send that input value to the unconnected lookup transformation, and then it will look for matching value inside the cache. As soon as the matching value found, the corresponding column values to return, we have to enable the return checkbox inside the unconnected lookup transformation ports. Okay, so whichever the port we want to return, so that port value we have to enable, that return checkbox we have to enable, so that unconnected lookup transformation knows that that is the output value it should have to send. Then, so to which port it will send the output value means whatever the port we have used in expression transformation to send the input value to the unconnected lookup, to the same port it returns the return value. Okay, so that variable port in expression transformation, which we have written that special lookup statement. Okay, so that will pass the input value, and also it will get the output value from unconnected lookup transformation. This is what we discussed in the last session. Next, today we'll start with same in connected and unconnected. Still, we have few more points to discuss that we'll see. Now here currently we have passed only one input value, right, to the unconnected lookup transformation. So through this lookup statement, we have passed the single input value. Okay. So if it is connected, in connected, can we pass multiple input values? In connected, can we pass multiple input values to the lookup transformation?
Yes.
Yes. So in dynamic lookup, we have seen, like we have passed in dynamic lookup here, you can see employee number, employee name, address, all these are input values we are passing to the lookup transformation, right? So whereas in connected, so here while performing a city type, and we just copied only joining port. So if there are multiple columns to join, sometimes not only single column, right? In a table, we can also join more than one column. Okay, so for example, here we have joined an employee number, and then we are associating address also. Okay, so in that case, we want to pass multiple input values to the unconnected lookup transformation. If it is connected, we can just directly drag and drop those multiple inputs, whatever we want to copy to the dynamic lookup or lookup transformation static lookup. We can just drag and drop the port from source qualifier to the lookup transformation. Suppose if I want to pass the multiple input values, then what do we have to do? Any guess? How to pass the multiple input values? Currently, we are passing only CCD here. Okay, suppose let's say we have one more column, like suppose let's say PID. PID also I want to pass to this rate lookup. That is another input value. So how to pass another input value?
Create another lookup, another variable to pass in.
Another lookup? Do you need to use comma and then you can use the other?
What is that? Can you repeat again?
In the same like value, we can use comma and we can add the other port as well.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So if you want to pass multiple input values to the unconnected lookup transformation, so we can use the same lookup statement. Okay, So we can use same lookup statement. In the same lookup statement, we just have to put the comma and then write another column name. Okay, so here in expression transformation, CCD, comma, well, let's say I want to pass the PID. So like this we can write. Now if I validate, it is going to be invalid because why that is invalid?
We have not connected the PID here.
What is that?
We have not taken that put here, right? PID.
Yeah, PID
Exactly.
is not in lookup. Yeah.
So here in lookup transformation, we don't have PID. I mean, like a input port is not there. We have only one input port, right? So we have only one input port. Now what I will do is, let me copy this PID also, then remove the link. We have now CCD and we have PID. Two input ports are there. So this time, open this, go here. We can see now expression parsed successful. So now it knows that what is the CCD and what is PID. So whatever here in expression transformation is going to receive CCD, the same CCD it is going to send it to the CCD port. And PID also we have here to the same PID. So the same input value, even though there is no link. So now like this, we can pass the multiple input values also to the unconnected lookup transformation. So to pass the multiple input values to the unconnected lookup transformation, then what we have to do is in the same special lookup statement. So if there is only one column, I mean, like if you want to pass the input value for only one column in unconnected lookup transformation, also one input port should be there. So if we have another input port, so here we can write another column to that another input port so that we can pass two values at a time to the unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, that is one thing which we have to remember. Okay, next, another important point. So can we return multiple output values here from unconnected lookup transformation?
Ali, before that,
No.
like, don't, in the previous one, don't we need to join the PID?
So I have just shown you the example here. So if you want to pass, so because we don't have PID right in a look rate. So if you have PID, then you can join PID with PID here.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose let's say if there is a PID, if I want to join with PID also, how to do that I have shown you. So if you want to pass multiple input values.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So if you then once you have PID, you can also join with other column. So like that, not only one or two, we can pass n number of input values to the unconnected lookup transformation. So that's what I have shown you here now, how to pass multiple input values to the unconnected lookup transformation. Next, to get the output values, how many output values we can return here?
One.
Only one, right? So as soon as you enable the other one, automatically the previous one will get disabled. So any one output port, even though if you pass multiple input values, you can return only one output value from unconnected lookup transformation. As soon as we enable the other checkbox, the previous one will get disabled. So that's the reason it will return only one output value. Okay, fine. Next. So that is the second point which we have to remember. It returns only one output value. Another third point. So can we consider or can we make this lookup as a dynamic? First of all, is this a static or dynamic lookup?
By default, static.
So this is a static lookup. Can we make this as a dynamic? And also can we create dynamic lookup as an unconnected lookup? This is one of the most important interview question. Can we make unconnected as a dynamic? Okay, so what will happen if you, so to make this lookup as a dynamic lookup, what we have to do, we have to go to the properties tab, and here we have the dynamic lookup cache, right? Okay, so we have to enable this checkbox. As soon as we enable this checkbox, so now click on apply OK. So as soon as you click on apply OK, now this lookup has become dynamic lookup. Okay, and we have got new lookup report also. Okay, But if you open this lookup transformation and if you go to the ports tab, so what is the return port here? Where is the return port? Which port we have selected as a return port here? Have we selected any port as a return port earlier? Rate we have selected as the return, but now this return for all these ports, the checkbox has disabled. It is not allowing me to return the return value. So if it is not going to allow me to select the return value, then what is the use? How we are going to get the return value from this unconnected dynamic lookup transformation? So that means, is it possible to have the unconnected as dynamic?
No.
No, right? So we cannot make the unconnected lookup transformation as a dynamic lookup transformation. So if we enable the dynamic lookup cache in that lookup transformation, if we enable the dynamic lookup cache property inside the unconnected lookup transformation, okay, so automatically the return checkbox or return ports will be disabled for all the ports inside the unconnected lookup transformation, so that it will not allow us to select or enable any one of the return port here. So if it is not going to enable the return port, then obviously to get the value we have to drag and drop from lookup transformation to the next transformation. So if we drag and drop, the link will be created, then again it is going to be a connected lookup, and then it is not going to be unconnected. Got it? So we cannot make the dynamic lookup as unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, that is one of the important points. So now I have removed the dynamic. So since I have removed the dynamic, now this checkbox got enabled. So it will return the return value. Okay, so if you want to create a dynamic lookup, then you should have to create that dynamic as connected only, not unconnected. Okay, next. So here we are sure that now this is unconnected lookup and we have enabled the return value as rate. Okay, so in the first example what we discussed here, okay, so in connected, I mean like SCD type 1 lookup transformation, here we have used to join source with the target table, and from this lookup we want to return employee number and address, because these two ports we are using in the join condition. I mean like in router condition, not the join. In router condition we are using employee lookup employee number and lookup employee number and address. Okay, so now can you tell me, in this place can we use unconnected lookup transformation in place of connected? Now this is connected lookup transformation in this SCD type 1 mapping. So we have created the lookup transformation, and this is connected lookup because we can see the links between lookup transformation to the other transformations. Okay, so in place of this connected, can we use unconnected?
No,
Yes.
No. Why?
because two outputs are coming.
Right, so there
Like,
are two outputs, two return values are there here, employee number and address. There are multiple return values here. So but we have seen unconnected lookup transformation returns only one value. So that means here also we cannot use unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, so remember the first difference between connected and unconnected lookup transformation is, so connected returns more than one value or one value. Okay, whereas unconnected lookup transformation, we are sure that it returns only one value. So whenever you have a requirement to return single value, it is suggestible, instead of creating the connected lookup, use unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, this is also one of the 100% interview questions. Okay, so in every interview they will ask, tell me what is the difference between connected and unconnected. So exactly when we have to use connected and when we have to use unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, so this is one of the most important interview questions you should know, because in real time we create both connected and unconnected, both lookups we create. Okay, so we should know when we create a connected and when we create unconnected. So the first difference would be, if from the lookup, if you want to return multiple values, then definitely we should have to go for connected lookup transformation. Okay, so if you want to return a single value from the lookup, even though if you pass the multiple values, the return value, if it is only one, then definitely it is suggestible to create unconnected lookup transformation. This is the first difference. The second difference. Okay, second difference, when we have to use connected and when we have to use unconnected, that we'll see here. Suppose we have the mapping like this. Tables we have EMP underscore HYD underscore yes, employee number, employee name, department number, 1A10, 2B20, EMP underscore BLR underscore yes, employee number, employee name, department number, 1A10, 5E20, EMP underscore CNI underscore yes, employee number, employee name, department number, 6F10. So like this, we have 3 employee tables and department. DEPT underscore ES or DEPT, department number, department name, 10 HR, 20 accounts. Like this, we have department and target table, employee, department, target. So here employee number, employee name, department number, department name. So like this, we have to load the data in the target table. Now total how many tables are there? Here we have 5 tables. Okay, so we have to join these tables and load the data into the target table. Okay, so since we are talking about join here, which are the tables we have to join to load the data into the target? So and also to populate the data in the target table. So how many mappings we have to create? Can we implement this in a single mapping or do we have to create multiple mappings? So first of all, we know to get the data into the target table, we have to join employee with the department. Okay, and this employee with department and this employee also with the department. So all these 3 employee tables we have to join with the department table. Okay, and then load the data into the target. So how do we do this in a single mapping? So if you are going to create multiple mappings, then since these two, if they are from same database, you can write a join query. Let's say if they are from different employee and department, then either you have to create joiner or lookup transformation. So by using the lookup transformation, you can join these two, employee and department, and from the lookup, you have to pass the department number, and to that department number corresponding department name, you should have to get the return value. Okay, and then from lookup to target, you can connect. Okay, so that it will load the HYD and DEPT data into the target. In the same way, so for BLR and CNI, you have to create different mappings and load the data into the target. So instead of creating the multiple mappings, so how can we implement this in a single mapping?
Through unconnected lookup.
No. Okay, so we'll see how we can create a single mapping for this. This is another concept. Like suppose let's say first, since we have 3 sources employee, all the 3 employee source definitions we have to import in a mapping. This is a first source definition, EMP HYD source definition. Here we have employee number, employee name, and the department number. Okay, so we have 3 columns. Right. So from this, we have source qualifier. Next, so if we create a lookup transformation, so on which table we have to create a lookup? We have to create a lookup on department because that is a parent table which will have the list number of rows. So here we have department number, department name, and the joining port department number we have to drag and drop. Okay, so and then join condition DNO is equals to DNO1, and then if you have in target create date, update date, so we can also have expression transformation. This is expression. From lookup we can take the department name. Okay, from the source we can take employee number, employee name, and then a department number. right? So from here we can connect like this. This is source definition, source qualifier. This is lookup. Okay, and this is expression, and we also have target definition. Employee name, department name.
Ali, one doubt.
Yes.
So when we, import the source definition of all these three tables, so in source qualifier only can we join these three tables? Is that possible?
Source qualifier itself,
By deleting
you
other two
cannot
source.
you cannot join these three, right? Can we join only these three? So if we join these three, are we going to get the data whatever we are expecting to load into the target?
No, after joining these three, then can we do a join again with lookup, like with department?
So how do
Is
you
that
join
possible?
these
I'm
three?
someone new to this. I'm just asking you, is that possible?
Yes, we can also do that. There could be multiple ways. You try that one while practicing and see whether you can do that. Yes, that is also one way.
Okay.
Okay, and here, since we are talking about the lookup transformation and unconnected lookup transformation, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
giving the scenario here. So if it is unconnected, here in this scenario, how we can implement the connected or unconnected, that I'm explaining. So, but yes, we can also, import these three sources. Okay, so you delete one source qualifier, you delete two source qualifiers and keep only one, and then also you have to import department as a source. That also you have to copy to the one source qualifier, and then you have to write a join query.
Okay.
Okay, so if you do that, then again there is another issue there. So it will get the data from a single table, not all the three tables. So instead of that, we have to do union first. So we have to combine these three tables data, employee,
Okay.
HYD, PLR, and Chennai. We have to combine, append the data to a single output. For that, we have to do union, and whatever
Mm-hmm.
the union result we are going to get, with that union result, we have to join with the department. So that union result and the department we have to join. Then only you will get the expected output.
So, just correct me if I'm wrong. So union and we can do the union in source qualifier as well. Like
No,
how
we'll
we.
discuss later about the union. So
Okay.
okay, so if you want to know about the union, in the materials folder, I have shared one. There is a folder union transformation. So there I have given the example how to use the union. You can refer these screenshots to create a union. Otherwise, I will again I'll explain this in the future classes.
Sure, Ali. Thank you.
Yeah. But for now, here in this scenario, we are trying to understand. So in this case, so if there is a lookup transformation created, so how we are going to implement the unconnected here, that we are discussing. Okay, so now in this case, this is HYD source definition, HYD source qualifier, and target is EDT. We have created the lookup on department, right? This is department lookup. Okay, so in the same mapping, we can have multiple pipelines. This is called multiple pipelines in a single mapping. These are not three different mappings. In one mapping itself, we have created three different pipelines. Okay, so all the three sources are different. This is PLR source, and this is HYD source. So in the first pipeline, first you have to, while creating a mapping, you have to drag and drop these three sources, HYD, BLR, and CNI. All the three sources you have to drag and drop. And then in all these pipelines, you have to create a lookup on the same department table. Okay, so and then create expression, and here you can create target definition, same target definition you can copy paste. So from here, employee number, so these are not three different mappings, this is a single mapping. In one mapping we have created three different pipelines. These are called multiple pipelines in a single mapping. Okay, so like this we have created the mapping now. So for this mapping, how many session tasks we have to create? Do we have to create 3 session tasks or 1 session task?
One.
Only one. So as I'm saying, like this is single mapping. In one mapping designer itself, you have to create 3 pipelines. You have to drag and drop 3 source definitions like this. And then in the first pipeline, you have to create a lookup transformation on the department. Then copy the joining code, add join condition. From here, you can take the department name. And then from the source directly, you can connect it to the expression transformation, employee number, name, department number. And then the target definition, you can also give the links like this. Same. Yes, in the second pipeline, again, you have to, in the same mapping, in the second pipeline, again, you have to create a lookup transformation and then connect like this. So in this mapping, we have created 3 pipelines. In all the 3 pipelines, we have created lookup transformation on the same lookup table. Okay, fine. So for this mapping, let's say we have created the session task workflow and we have started execution. As soon as we start execute, it will execute one by one. So first pipeline will execute first, and then second pipeline, and then third pipeline. Okay. So as soon as first pipeline started execution, in the first pipeline we have a lookup transformation. So that lookup transformation, we know it is going to create a static cache, right? So with how many records the cache will be created? This lookup transformation.
2.
2.
So this is going to create a cache on 2 records because that lookup table contains 2 records. So with those 2 records, the cache will be created. So after creating a cache, then it will start processing the data from source to target, right? So from the source, it will select 1A, 1A10, 10 it will send to the lookup. Lookup will look for matching value inside the cache. So for the 10, we have HR, the corresponding HR, it will send to expression to the target. Like that, it will process all the source data into the target table. After processing all the source data into the target table, so this cache is going to be deleted, right? Because it has loaded all the source data into the target. So after processing all the source data into the target table, and if there are no records to process, the cache also going to be deleted automatically. Next, it comes to the second pipeline. When it comes to the second pipeline lookup transformation is there. Okay, so this lookup transformation, again, it is going to create a cache because that has started just now. That pipeline has started execution just now. That's why the second pipeline lookup transformation, again, whatever the cache created by the first pipeline, the same cache again it is going to create by the second pipeline because we have created the lookup on the lookup transformation on the same lookup table. Okay, so after creating a cache, then second pipeline source, it will start reading the data from the source, and row by row it will send to the lookup. Lookup will look for matching value inside the cache, and corresponding department name it will send to the target. After loading all the BLR data also to the target table, so this cache is going to be deleted. Again, when it comes to the third pipeline again the same, the cache is going to be created by this lookup transformation, and CNI data also it will process and it will load into the target table. Okay, after loading all the data into the target table, this cache is also going to be deleted. Fine. Now, what we have to observe here, we have a mapping. In that mapping, we have 3 different pipelines, or let's say multiple pipelines are there in a single mapping. In all those pipelines or in multiple pipelines, we have used lookup transformation and which is created on the same lookup table. Okay, next. Now, since there are only 2 records in the lookup table, so to create a cache here, it will take fraction of seconds. Okay, so let's say if the lookup table contains 2 million records, so this lookup table contains 2 million records. Okay, so when it started execution of the first pipeline, so this lookup transformation has to create the cache with how many records? 2 million records. So to create a cache on 2 million records, will it take time or not?
Yes.
Definitely it will take time. So how much time it is going to take to create a cache? Let's say it took 1 hour. To create a cache on 2 million records, it took 1 hour. Okay, so after 1 hour, now it has started processing the source data into the target table. Okay, so after processing all the source data into the target table, again, this static cache is going to be deleted. So same thing will happen here. So again, the same static cache on 2 million records, it is going to take, it is going to create, and again, it is going to take 1 hour time to create a cache. After processing the source data, again it comes here. Here also, it is going to take 1 hour time to create a cache on 2 million records. After processing the source data, again this cache is going to be deleted. So now this mapping to create same cache again and again, how much time it took? Total 3 hours, right? Because we have 3 pipelines, each mapping took 1 hour time, and total this mapping to create only cache itself, it took 3 hours of time. So after creating cache, again it should have to process the source data. So for that again, let's say it took 2 hours or 3 hours. So that means max it took 5 to 6 hours to execute this mapping. Out of 5 to 6 hours, it took only to create a cache 3 hours. Okay, so now here what is happening? The cache which is created in the first mapping, the same cache again it is creating in the second mapping, same cache it is again creating in the third mapping. Instead of creating the same cache again and again, to improve the performance of this mapping, what we can do is, so suppose let's say in the first mapping, if it has created the cache on 2 million records, and if it has took 1 hour of time to create that cache,
Dynamic
okay,
cache?
no, hold on. So after creating this cache, first pipeline, what it will do, it will create a cache, and it took 1 hour time to create a cache on 2 million records. We are sure that after processing all the source data into the target table, this cache is going to be deleted automatically. Okay. Now this time we are not going to delete this cache. Okay, so we also have option inside the lookup transformation not to delete the cache even after processing source data into the target table. So as I told in the beginning, like static cache will be created at the beginning of the execution and it will be deleted at the end of the execution. Okay, so but we also have a property even after processing all the source data into the target table, do not delete the cache. So if you set that property inside the lookup transformation, even though after processing all the source data into the target table, it is not going to delete the cache. Okay, fine. Let's say we have enabled that property. Okay, so since we have enabled that property, even after processing source data into the target table, this cache is not going to be deleted. Okay, when it comes to the next pipeline, so second pipeline lookup transformation at the beginning of the execution, beginning means this pipeline beginning of the execution, this will start creating the cache. So every lookup transformation or any lookup transformation before create the cache, wherever it is going to create a cache, the cache directory. So before creating a cache, it will go to the cache directory. It will check, is there any cache created already on top of that lookup table exist inside the cache directory or not? It will check. So any lookup transformation before it creates the cache, first it will go to the cache directory, whatever the directory path we have specified inside the lookup transformation properties, it will go there and check, is there any cache already created on the same lookup table or not. So this time, do we have already cache created which is created on the same lookup table or not?
It's there.
It is there, right? So on department table, it is already there. So this cache it's already there. Okay, so previous pipeline, the first pipeline in the same mapping has created, but it has not deleted because in the first mapping pipeline, we have enabled that property not to delete the cache. That's the reason even after processing source data into the target table, the first pipeline cache has not deleted. When it comes to the second pipeline, so when the second pipeline started execution, lookup transformation, it will try to create a cache. But before it creates the cache, the second pipeline lookup transformation, it will go to the cache directory and it will check, is there any cache already available on same department lookup table, yes, the previous lookup transformation has created. If the cache is already available, which is created on the same lookup table, then the second lookup transformation, again, it is not going to recreate. It will reuse the existing cache. Second pipeline, it will not recreate, it will reuse. So if it is going to reuse, and if it is not going to create a cache on 2 million records, can we save the time here or not? Definitely, right? So definitely we can save the time here. So it is not going to create a cache. Second pipeline lookup transformation, without creating a cache, it will reuse the existing cache. Okay, so in the same way, third pipeline also. So third pipeline also, we have a lookup transformation. This one also, before creating the cache, it will go and check inside the Informatica server, and in the cache directory, is there any cache already available on the same lookup table or not? Yes, it is available. Third pipeline also, it is not going to recreate, and it will reuse the existing cache. And here also we have saved another 1 hour. So earlier, if we have not enabled that property to save the cache, that mapping took total 3 hours to create a cache. This time, since we have enabled that property to save the cache, how much time it took to create a cache? Only 1 hour. So we have saved a lot of time here, right? So that is another important option which we have inside the lookup transformation, how we can save the cache which is created by the lookup transformation, and even after processing source data into the target table, it should not be deleted. Okay, so for that, yes.
both cache.
What is that? Can you repeat again?
We have like static and we have static and dynamic, right? So can we make this option for both type of cache?
No. Either it should be a static or dynamic.
Yeah. Either it should be academic, but whether that is applicable to both the types.
No. So here we have another type of cache called lookup cache persistent. Okay, so lookup cache persistent. So we have another property inside the lookup transformation called lookup cache persistent. If you enable this property, lookup cache persistent, now this lookup transformation is configured not to delete the cache even after processing source data into the target table. Okay, so what is meant by persistence cache or lookup cache persistent? What is lookup cache persistent?
Reusing the cache.
Reusing means what? Not exactly reusing.
Storing
The
it.
cache can be deleted.
Storing the cache, right? Storing this lookup transformation, it will store and it will keep the cache as it is. It will not delete even after processing source data into the target table. End of the execution, it will not delete the cache. So it will store that cache as it is, whatever it has created. And while creating this cache, whatever the data present inside that lookup table, with that the data cache will be created. Okay, now let's say we have enabled this property. Yes.
So can we make the like unconnected cache there, so that like only one cache will be created, and the return value we can go like connect it into the expression.
Yeah, we'll come to that point. We'll come to that point next. So now here lookup cache persistent. We are talking about lookup cache persistent. So persistent means saving the cache or storing the cache even after processing data from source to target table, not to delete this cache. That is called lookup cache persistent. Okay, so if you enable that lookup cache persistent, it will not delete the cache. Fine. So now, suppose let's say I have enabled this property lookup cache persistent. Okay, and we are sure that this is a static lookup, right? So we don't have new lookup report. So can we have that persistence cache for the dynamic? I've enabled the dynamic lookup cache also. Okay, so both are there. Lookup cache persistent, dynamic cache also there. Okay, we just have to associate the ports, that's it. So now, and that should be a connected. It should be a connected. We can have persistent as well as dynamic, both. So even though if it is a dynamic, this is also which create at the beginning of the execution, and this cache at runtime it will be refreshed, but even after processing source data into the target table, that cache is not going to be deleted. Okay, but every time the cache will get refreshed. But if it is not a dynamic, cache will not refresh. So what is the meaning of the execution? With whatever the data cache is created with the same data, it remains same. Okay, next. Now let's say this lookup transformation has created the static cache. Okay, and we have enabled the lookup cache persistent. Even though that is a static cache, we have to call that as a persistence cache. I repeat, lookup transformation, this one has, we know that this is a static lookup, and this has created the cache, static cache. And since we have enabled the lookup cache persistent, even though that is a static cache, we should have to say that as a persistence cache. What is meant by persistent? Persistent means that has created at the beginning of the execution, and at the end of the execution, it is not going to be deleted. So if the cache is not going to be deleted at the end of the execution, then we should have to say that persistence cache. So if it is a static cache, then that will be created at the beginning of the execution and it will be deleted at the end of the execution. Whereas persistence cache is not going to be deleted at the end of the execution. Okay, then who will delete that cache? So again, if any new record got inserted or updated inside the lookup table, then suppose let's say when you have created that lookup transformation or when you have executed that mapping 1 year back, and 1 year back whatever the data was there in the lookup table, and till date the cache will have, if the persistence cache will have the same data, right? So after 1 year, let's say if we have added new records also inside the lookup table, those new records will not be there inside the persistence cache. Persistence cache, let's say if you have executed that mapping 1 year back, so 1 year back whatever the data was there in the lookup table, the same data till today it will be there, because that persistence cache created 1 year back and it has not deleted from last 1 year, and every time when the mapping is executed, so well, that lookup transformation it will check only for the cache name, so whether for this table cache is available or not. Yes, it is available and it is getting reused. Okay, but the data inside the cache is not updated, since it's a static cache. At the beginning of the execution, with whatever the data it has created, with that data only it is there till now. Okay, so if you want to get the latest data in that persistence cache, what do we have to do? Now we are sure that, what is that?
Dynamic. We can use the dynamic cache, right?
No. When we have to go for dynamic?
When we are getting source like from if we are getting data into the lookup from other source as well.
Exactly. So if the data is getting to the lookup table from multiple sources, then only we have to go for dynamic. So are we getting the data here from multiple sources?
No.
No. So this is a static lookup. We are sure that to this lookup table data is not coming from multiple sources.
Yeah.
Even though if the data is not coming from the multiple sources, and we are sure through our mapping only if the data is going to be loaded in that lookup table, then still if you create a dynamic lookup, it will work fine, but it will take a long time to execute. Compare with static or dynamic, which lookup will take time to execute? Is it static or dynamic?
Dynamic.
So dynamic will take time to execute. Why?
Because it's storing data like
for every record, new record, the cache will get refreshed.
Updated, yeah.
So there, yeah, so there it will take time, right? Because of cache refresh every time for each and every record, so it will take time to execute. So that's the reason we have to avoid creating the dynamic lookup. Only we have to go to create a dynamic lookup if the lookup table is connected from multiple sources. Otherwise, we should have to go for static only.
Okay.
Okay, so here again to get the cache, to get the latest data inside the persistence cache, what we have to do is, so we have to go manually there, I mean like the location where the cache is stored, the persistence cache is created. So we have to go to the server and manually we have to delete the cache file. Okay, so we can see that cache file inside the cache directory. I have shown you the cache directory, right? In your local machine, info shared cache directory will be there, folder. So inside that it will be there. Okay, so from there we have to delete manually today. Let's say 1 year back you have I mean, like executed that mapping, and again today you are going to execute. Okay, and you want to have the latest data inside that cache. So before you execute today, you go to that server cache directory, delete that file manually, cache file. So we have to search for the file, okay, and then you have to delete. So once you delete it, and in today's run, today lookup transformation, even though you have enabled the persistence cache, it will check inside the server. Since the cache does not exist, a new cache file will be created, and today whatever the data is there in that lookup table, with that data, cache will be created. So again, since we have enabled the persistence cache in the same lookup, again after processing source data into the target table, and today whatever the latest cache got created, that it is not going to be deleted. So again, if you want to, if there is any change in the lookup table data, again manually we have to delete, or we can write one unique shell script. Okay, so to delete that file after every 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, like that we can set the time there, retention period. So based on that we can keep that file. Otherwise, if you don't want to keep that file for more than 1 month, then to delete that file every 1 month, start if it has created today, and from today onwards it should have to keep only that file for 30 days, and after 30 days if you want to delete that file automatically, then we have to write one Unix shell script, and that script we have to schedule to run every 30 days. Okay, or end of the month, okay, or last day of the month. So like that we can schedule, so that whenever that script is going to execute, it will go to the server and it will delete the file. And the next day means first day of the every month. Okay, so when the job is going to execute, a new cache will be created. So it depends on our requirement, so we can decide or we can set how long that persistence cache file should be there inside the server. Okay, and also suppose let's say you don't know for this with what name the cache will be created, so we can give here the name also. We have another property, if you have enabled the persistence cache, so to that cache we can also set the name, cache file name prefix. Okay, so here you can give some meaningful name. Suppose let's say this lookup transformation is created on department. Okay, so dept underscore something like that. Okay, now whatever the cache it is going to be created, so if there are hundreds of caches will, since there are hundreds of mapping, hundreds of lookup transformations will be there, so out of that how would we know that for this lookup transfer, for this lookup which is the cache got created? For that, if we have specified like that, lookup that one cache file name prefix, and then it is going to be created the cache with this name prefix. In the file name it will have dept underscore. Now while searching, you can search for the file with this name begins with dept underscore. So there will be only one file, so that file we can delete. So like that also we can specify to create a cache with a specific file name. Okay, so now we know what is persistence cache. Persistence cache means even after storing the, first of all storing the cache, even after processing source data into the target table, it will not delete the cache. So it will be there inside the server. That cache is being reused by other lookup. Other lookups means same lookup, other lookup transformations which are created on the same lookup table. Okay, so that's all about persistence cache. That is also one of the important interview question. What is persistence cache and when it is used? Okay, fine. Next. Now here in this mapping, we have created lookup transformation on the same lookup table. In one mapping, we have multiple pipelines. In all the pipelines, we have created the lookup transformation on the same lookup table. Okay, so is this connected or unconnected lookup which we have created here? So we have created connected lookup. All these three are connected. Okay, and since this is a single mapping, can you tell me? So here, can we create unconnected lookup transformation or not? So if you have decided to create an unconnected lookup transformation, connected means 100% we have to create three connected lookups here in one mapping. So if you go for unconnected, how many unconnecteds you have to create here?
One.
Only one unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, so this is another difference between connected and unconnected lookup transformation. This is important difference. So which is, you know, if we have a single mapping, and in that mapping if there are multiple pipelines, okay, and in those pipelines if we have created lookup transformation on the same lookup table in all the pipelines or in multiple pipelines, and from that lookup transformation if you are returning a single value, okay, so from that lookup transformation if you are returning single value, instead of creating again and again the connected lookup transformation in multiple pipelines, okay, so we can have only one unconnected lookup transformation, okay, and then we are sure that that lookup transformation returns the same output value. So let's say here department name, second pipeline also department name, third pipeline also department name, right? So we can have only one unconnected lookup transformation, okay, and in all the three expression transformations we have to create a new port which is variable port. So there we have tried colon lkp dot that unconnected lookup transformation name of whatever the input value we want to pass that port name department number. So if you write like this, then when it execute the first pipeline, that is at the beginning of the execution only lookup transformation, since we have only one lookup transformation, so there it is going to create a cache, okay, and then first pipeline it will, as soon as it started execution, so first pipeline here, you know, since this is not a connected, and inside the expression transformation we have to write a variable port like this, dno or dna underscore v variable port. So there we are going to get the department name, so that's the reason we have to create that port as variable port. Okay, so like this we can write a variable port. So this variable port here we have to write colon lkp dot this lookup transformation name of department number if you write, so that will send the input value and it will get the corresponding value to this variable port, and from here we can send it to the target. In the same way, in the second pipeline also, here we no need to have the lookup transformation. So remove the lookup transformation here, and from here also we can remove the lookup transformation. We'll have only one lookup, whereas here we have tried dna underscore v. And here also we can write dna underscore v. Okay, so like this is another difference. So if there are multiple pipelines in a single mapping, and in those pipelines, if the lookup transformation is created on the same lookup table, then instead of creating again and again the lookup transformation, we can have only one unconnected lookup transformation, and where in whichever the pipeline that lookup transformation we want, then in the corresponding mapping we can create one variable port in expression. There we can call that lookup transformation, unconnected lookup transformation in that variable port. There we can write a special lookup state. This is another difference. So if we go for connected, then definitely, so here in this example we have to create three connected lookup transformations. So more number of transformations mapping will take more time to execute. That's the reason we have to reduce the number of transformations in the mapping. Okay.
So in this case we don't have to enable that persistence cache, right?
Yeah, it is not required.
Okay.
So since we have only one map, one transformation, and it is not connected to any other, so here whatever the cache is going to be created, that it will delete at the end of the execution.
Okay.
Okay, so every time it is not going to be created, and it will be created only once. If it is connected 3 times, it will be created, and we have to use the persistent.
Do
Okay,
we
this
use a persistent cache in real time?
yes, we also use the persistence cache, but not frequently. That's also very rare we use. Fine. So this example, while practicing, first you create a mapping with connected lookup only. Okay, so you create a mapping with 3 connected lookup transformations in the mapping, execute and see whether you are getting expected output or not. Okay, then the same mapping, same mapping means create another new mapping, use the same source and target tables, and that time you create only one unconnected lookup transformation. Okay, and in all the 3 expressions you write a variable ports, execute and see whether you are going to get the expected output or not. And also we can check the difference, the time, how much time with connected it took and how much time without connected it took. That difference we can see.
So like first we have to import all the like source tables and all the target tables, right?
Yes.
Only one target table, 3 source tables, right?
Yes.
Okay. And just
this
copy paste
department,
the, like, is it like copying and pasting the transformations or?
no, not copy paste. Only target definition you have to do copy paste. This
Okay.
expression you can create a new expression.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, if it is lookup transformation also, you can create a new lookup transformation.
Okay.
Only target definition instance, the copy we have to create since it's a same target.
Same target. Okay. Okay.
Fine. So with this, we have done with the lookup transformation. There are still few more points to discuss in the lookup. Okay, in future classes we'll discuss. Future classes means like writing the query inside the lookup that we'll do in S3 type 2. When we discussing S3 type 2, there I will tell what are the conditions or how we can write a query and what are the rules while writing the query inside the lookup transformation, and also about the other properties. Okay, lookup caching enable, active or passive, all these things when it comes that time I will explain. But for now, so we are done with this lookup transformation. So again, in our future classes in S3 type 2 scenario also, again we'll be using this lookup transformation. Fine, next we'll start flat files. Okay, so till now we have seen loading the data from table to a table, multiple source tables to a single table to multiple target tables. Okay, so like that on tables we have seen different scenarios. Okay, so not only tables, we also get the data through the flat files. Okay, so in flat files we have 2 types of flat files. One is fixed, the
So
second
Ali,
one
like
is
that lookup.
lookup is done. This is different, new concept.
Okay. No, because in
Fine.
lookup, we select the dynamic as you have selected that option insert else update, right? So there is
Yes.
another option details insert also. What does that mean?
No, so we just have to select insert else update. Update else insert for now you should not select, because if the data is already there for the first time when you execute, okay, so for the first time when you execute, if the data is already there in the lookup table, then at that time we have to select update else insert. But when we are performing SCD, we are sure for the first time we will not have any data in the target table. So first time, whatever the new records are going to be inserted inside the lookup table, the same new record it should have to insert inside the caching, not the update. If the record already there, then it should have to update. Since for the first time, none of the records will be there in the lookup table when we perform SCD type 1. So we are sure all the records need to be inserted inside the target, and the same target is the lookup table we have considered, and the same lookup table it has created the cache, dynamic cache, and in the dynamic cache also first time it is not going to be updated. Is it going to be insert or update first inside the cache?
Insert.
Always it is insert, so that's the reason we have to select the insert else update, not update else insert.
So there will be no scenario where we'll be using the option at all, right?
No, we will be using, that's what I'm telling. So if we are sure that the target table doesn't have the data for the first time, then we have to use insert else update. If the target is already having the data for the first time when we execute, okay, then in that case, if you are performing SRE type 1, then we have to use update else insert. But that is very rare we do. But because we are sure for the first time none of the data will be there in the target, that's the reason 99% we use insert else update only. Very rare we use that update else insert. Because in
Okay.
real time also for the first time we will not have any data in the target table.
Ali,
Okay.
one more question. You told whenever we have a primary key in the target, in session task, we have to set the mapping, we have to go edit and, set the target table properties as target load type as normal, right?
Yes, yes.
But when I was creating lookup table, it was already as target load type normal. Like I did not have to go and set it separately.
Okay, so if it is normal, then you leave it as it is, because sometimes it will take from the previous mapping, or if you have already set in any other mapping, from there it will take by default. Okay, but it is suggestible if it is not there. If it is bulk is there, we just have to change it to normal. So if it is there, you just leave it as it is. We no need to do anything for that.
Okay.
And also, Ali, when in the previous session, when you say the lookup, there is an option to change the name for that cache, right? Persistent cache.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and below that, I have seen some option like recache from lookup source. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, we'll discuss the other properties whenever it comes. I will take, like as I told, there are other properties also that we'll discuss in future class. Whenever the scenario comes, there I will explain, okay, this property we use in this scenario.
Okay.
So for that, you should know about that scenario. So when we talk about SCD type 2, there I will explain something. And when it comes to the active passive, there I'll explain some of the properties, and some of the properties I'll explain in performance tuning. So some properties we use only for the performance tuning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Fine. Still, if we didn't discuss about that property, or if you still have any questions about that, you just note down. We'll have at the end one doubt session. So in that doubt session, we'll discuss about that.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So shall we continue for another 30 minutes? Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, I'm planning not to have the class this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Is that fine?
Yes, Ali, we wanted some time to practice.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's the
Yeah,
reason.
that looks fine. Thank you.
So you practice these two days in the weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Ali.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll continue for another 30 minutes. We'll complete these flat files.
Okay.
You will have many things to practice tomorrow and day after.
Okay, Ali, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with the flat files. So in flat files, we have two types of flat files. One is fixed width file. The second one is delimiter. Okay, so these two are the flat files we have. So in these two also, most of the times in real time we'll get this delimiter flat files. 99% will get delimiter. Very rare you will see fixed width flat files. So most of the times we'll be working with delimiter flat files. So we'll see what is fixed width and what is delimiter. Source files. So first fixed width. So fixed width file means something like this. So here we'll have the data like this in a fixed width. So if you see here, there are 7 rows, right? So there are multiple rows in this file. And if you observe from first row to till last row, employee number we have in a fixed length, right? 2 characters or 2 digits. In the first row, employee number we have 2 digits. Till last row, we have employee number 2 digits only. Okay. And the employee name, in the first row we have 4 characters. Till last row, employee name we have 4 characters only. And the salary, in the first row we have 4 digits. Till last row we have 4 digits, right? So in a file, if each and every column value is in a fixed length from first row to till last row, then we can call this as a fixed width file. In a file, from first row to till last row, each and every column value, if it is in a fixed length means here employee number 2 digits, till last row we have 2 digits, name here 4 characters, till last row 4 characters, salary we have 4 digits, till last row 4 digits. That is called fixed length. So if you have the data in a fixed length like this, then we can call this as a fixed width file. So this type of files very rare will get. Okay, because here after reaching 90, again employee number will get 100, right? So 100 is having 3 digits. Again, that is not called as a fixed width file. So it should be 2 digits only. So again, if the employee number is going to get 3 digits, then it is not going to be a fixed width file. Okay, so that's the reason most of the times will not get such type of fixed width file. So we have another type of file called delimiter file. EMP delimiter flat file source. Delimiter flat file source. So here we'll have the data like this. Now, do we have here column value in a fixed length in this file?
No.
So we don't have column value in a fixed length here. Okay, so here in the first row, employee number we have 2 digits, here 3 digits, again single digit, again we have 2 digits. It's not in a fixed length. And name also here we have 3 characters, then 4 characters, then 5 or 6 character, 5 characters here, then 6 characters. Like this we have. So this is not in a fixed length. Okay, so like this we'll get the data. I mean, like most of the times in real time we'll get a delimiter file. So here how we are saying this is a delimiter, because to differentiate each and every column value we have a comma delimiter. So comma is one of the delimiters. Okay, so to differentiate each and every column value we have a comma in a file. So by separating that comma we will come to know the column value. So from first digit to till first comma font, it will consider as a first column value. From first comma to second comma, it will consider as a second column value. From second comma to till last digit, it will consider as a third column value. So like that, based on the delimiter comma, it will decide the column values from which character to which character. Okay, so like this, let's say we have the data in a file. This file data we have to load into a table. We'll consider this as our target table. So here we don't have any data in this target table. So here also we have employee number, name, salary. These 4 records are, will insert one more row. Okay. So like this, let's say there are 5 rows. These 5 rows we have to load in this target table. Okay. And we have the file here, emp deff delimiter flat file source. Okay. So before creating a mapping, so you should not keep the file open. You have to close this file. Okay. So if you keep the file open, then it will fail the execution. Okay. So after inserting the data like this in the file, you close this file, save and close. Okay. So once the file is closed, then you should have to start creating the mapping now. First, we have to import the source definition. Source is a table or a flat file. This time the source is a flat file. Now, which option we have to select? So is that there in the database or it's a flat file? Since the source is a flat file, we have to select the second option, import from file, not from the database. Okay. So file type, it's not .dat, it's a .txt which we have. select all and go to that location where you have the source file. So in this location, I have that source file. Select the source file and OK. As soon as you click on OK, you can see the steps here while importing a flat file definition. So first it is asking to select the it is asking us to select the flat file type. Okay, so whether it is a fixed width or delimiter, right? So since in our flat file we have a comma, by default it has took this one delimited. Okay, so if it is a fixed width, then we have to select this option, fixed width. And then here we can see the sample data from the file. Okay, and then we have a source flat file name. This is the file name, and start import at row 1. So what it means, start import at row 1 means from the first row onwards we have the actual data to load into the target table. Okay, sometimes whatever the file we are going to get, that file will have the column names or header information. Header information means who created this file, for which project this file got created, okay, when this file got created, like that. Some log or header information will be there in the file, initial 2 rows or 3 rows or 4 rows. Okay, that is not the actual data to load into the target table. So that is just for our information purpose. We'll have some header information or log information in the beginning of the file. So we have to skip those rows, and let's say from the 5th row onwards, if we have the actual data to load, here we have to write 5. In the next example, we'll see that header information. So if we have the column names, how to skip that one. And next, this one, import field names from the first line. So if there are column names in the first line, then we have to select this property so that automatically it will consider those columns. But in our file, do we have the column names here in the file? We don't have the column names. We just have the data. We don't have the column names here, employee number, name, salary, like that. We don't have any column names here. We just have the data here. Okay, so then if you have the column names, how to do? So means we have to select this option. That also we'll see in the next example. Next, and then other than comma, we can also have tab space, semicolon, space. Other means if you want to have the pipe symbol or question mark in place of comma, right, to differentiate each and every column value. We can have any other operations also. Okay, and here we can see the sample data. This is about the quotes for the string type of data, like whether do we want to have single quotes or double quotes or no quotes. Okay, so this option is not required now here. Most of the time this option will use if the target is a flat file. So there, while generating the file, okay, so if you want to have the quotes, single quotes or double quotes in the file, then we can use this option. But for now, whatever is there, leave that as it is. Then next, so since there are no column names in the flat file, here it is asking us to give the column names. Field name means column name. So what is the first column name? This is employee number. We can change here. And also we have to make sure the data type, whether it is a text or numeric or date. So these three are the data types which we have. Length by default, it will take from the file what is the max number we have. Okay. So if you want to, we can change the length also. The second column name, this is employee name. Third one is salary. Like this, we can change the column names. Finish. So as soon as we click on finish, so here we have got flat file definition. Remember, here we have not imported the data. We have just imported the definition, source flat file definition, the structure of the flat file. Okay, and then the target definition we already have, emp_t. No need to re-import again. Next, mapping m_emp file to table load. File to table load. Click on OK. Sources. Here you will have flat file. Under flat file, you will see that flat file definition. Target is emp_t. Link these ports. So with this, we have created the mapping. Save. Then if you open the source qualifier, if you go to the properties, you can see except this tracing level, all the other fields are disabled. Why they are disabled? Because The source is a flat file. We cannot execute any queries on top of the flat file. That's the reason all the fields are disabled. Okay, so we have created the mapping. We'll create session workflow and then execute. Okay, so here tasks create s_ this mapping name, file to table load, done, workflow, create file to table load, file to table load tasks, link task, save. So with this we have created mapping session workflow, everything. And how about the connections? So in connections you can see the connection only for the target. Okay, right? So because for source is not a table to give the connection. So if it is a table, then only we have to give the connection. If it is a flat file, we should not give any connection here. Okay, so then what do we have to do? So how this information knows that where is the flat file, from where it should have to read the data?
We have to give the file path here.
Okay, so we have to give the file path. Okay, not the connection. For the source flat file, we have to give the path. So to give the path, select the sources here. Under sources, select the source qualifier. Right side, if you go to the properties, under properties, you'll find source file type. Source file type by default it is direct is there. You just leave that as a direct. Source file directory. What is the source file directory? By default, some default directory is there, but we don't want to keep, or we don't have the file inside that directory. We know we have the file in this directory. So whatever the path is there, you just have to give this path here. Okay, so this is a source file directory. So like this, these three are very important properties whenever you have the source file type, source file directory. Wherever we have a source file, that file path we have to give. As a source file name, what in this location, what is the file from where you have the data? This is the file. So embdff_s.txt. That's it. Apply. Okay, save. Now it is ready to execute. As soon as we start execute, so we don't have any data in the target table, it will read the data from the file and it will load into the target table. Start workflow. So started execution. Got succeeded. There are 5 rows in the file, all the 5 rows loaded into the target table. Now table, if you see, we have got the data. So whatever data present in the source file, the same data we have got in the target table. Okay, this is how we have to create a mapping to load file data to a table. Clear? Okay, so we'll see another example now. What I will do is, I have a file which is having huge number of rows. Okay, so finally we have got to this example, loading the huge data into a file. So we can see here we have some around 12,060 rows. Okay, the first row we have the column names, and rest of the other rows we have the data. So here we have the column names, employee number, first name, last name, region, country, like this we have the column names. Okay, and here we have the data to load into the table. So this sample flat file and create table script I have already shared. It is there in the materials folder. If you go to the materials folder, and there you will find, okay, source files, src files folder. Inside that you'll have multiple files, and query also to create a table. Okay, so you have the query also target to create a target table. So you can use this query and create a target table so that you will get the target table, and then a source file also there. You can read the data from the file and load into the target table. So here in my system, okay, it is not there. Let me create this table. So you can see table created. We'll use this as our target table to load that huge file data. Okay, so we have got the table ready here. So there are around 17 columns here. Okay, different columns are there. Fine. So what I will do is, one second. Okay, so fine. So here you can see there is a number type of data, and here there are two columns: date, data type, order date, and ship date. Okay, and we'll see how to import the flat file. So our target table is ready now, and also source flat file also ready. So we have multiple files. If you want whatever the file you want, you can import. So here the source file is training. Okay, so I'm going to import that flat file definition. So for that, first we have to import a flat file, sources, import from file, and here all files. Now you can see we have got this one. Flat file, this is a flat file we have to select and OK. And here is the sample data. And we know in the first row we have the column names. That's the reason I'm going to select this checkbox, import field name from the first line. Okay, so now it will start importing actual data from row 2 in the flat file, and this is the delimiter file. Next, and the next, and here you can see we no need to set the column names, since already column names are there in the flat file. In the first row we have selected a field names on the first line. All the column names we have got here, but we just have to make sure the data types. So for all the ports, data types will be correct except for the date. There are two columns here, order, date. Now for the order date, so this is the date data type data, but here it has selected text. It should not be a text, it is the date time. Okay, the data type should be date time for the data type. If you leave this as it is as a text from the file, while reading, it will read as a text, that even though that is a date in a file, it will read as a text. And then in the mapping, we should have to convert that string data type or character data type to a date data type. So for that, again, you have to use the conversion function, toDate function, and there you have to convert that string data type to a date data type. So if you don't want to do all those things directly while importing the flat file definition, if you know that that column has the date, then instead of text, we can select this date time. Okay, this is one column. Another column, ship date also we have. Here also we just have to set date time, then finish. So once you click on finish, here we have got the source flat file definition. Okay, so for the same we have to import target definition. Target is this emp training underscore t. Targets import from database, connect, task connected. Okay, now the mapping m underscore emp training file to table load, training file table. Click on OK. And then this is the source flat file definition. This is the target definition. Select all the ports, drag and drop here. Automatically it will give the links. Now inside the mapping, here we'll have, you can see like this, we have got the mapping with multiple columns. Save, and then workflow. Here we have to create session task. So before creating a session task, we have to set another property also here inside the source flat file definition. If the source file, if the file is having the date, Now you can see here we have two dates, right? Okay, one is order date, the other one is ship date. So we have two date columns, and since the date columns are there in a file, whatever the date format we have here, the same date format we also have to set inside the source flat file definition date format. Okay, so now you can see date format. This is date, and this is month, and this is year. The DD MON YY format. So open the flat file definition, go to the properties tab, date format, date time format we have to set inside the source flat file definition. Otherwise, if you are not going to set here, again you have to create expression transformation. There you have to set the specific date format by using to_date function. So otherwise, so whatever the date format is there in a source flat file, that format we can select. So this is the format which we have in our source flat file, DD MON YY. Okay, just click on OK, that's it. Apply OK. Only this change we have to do if there is a date in a source flat file. Now we'll create a session task. Training file table to load. Done. Session task got created. Then workflow. So with this workflow also created, then inside the session task we have to give the path, source file path. Where do we have our source file? That source file path we have to give. So this is a source file. Here we have our file. Source file type should be direct, and source file name extension also very important. Now this is CSV, .csv. CSV means comma separated. Now we can see in the file also we have comma separated here to differentiate each and every column value. Clear? That's it. Apply. Okay. Source file type direct, source file directory, the path we have, and source file name, the file name. Save. Okay. It is ready to execute. As soon as I start workflow, it will start reading the data from the file and it will load into this table. Also, we can see has failed. Okay, so if you want to see the error message, if there is a failure, right click, get run properties. The first tab you can see failure information. Others you minimize so that it will open here. So what is the error message? File cannot process the access. The file is being used by another process. Means I have opened the file here. As I told you in the beginning, we should not open. It should be closed before we start execute. So now I have closed that one. Again, I'm going to rerun. Source and target statistic. Now you can see it got succeeded. So there are 12,060 rows. All the 12,060 rows loaded into the target table. Okay, now if you execute the target table query, here we have got whatever data present in the source flat file, all the data we have got into the target table. Right, decimal values, numbers, dates, everything loaded. Since in our tool we have set DDMON YYY 4 Ys by default, it is showing 2014 like that. But in our file we have last two digits. If you want to display only last two digits, so again you have to go to the tools preferences. You have to change the date format here. Somewhere it will be there. The date format you have to change. So then it will display only last two digits. Okay, so like this we have loaded. So here if you want to see the count, right click, count rows. So you can see we have 12,060 rows loaded into the target table. Here. Okay. Now we have seen loading the data from single file. Okay. Let's say there are multiple files. Okay. So multiple files means let me move these files. emp_hyd is one file. So like this client has sent 3 files. This is we have USA and we have one India file. So in this file, let's say we have all the India employees information. Here we have all the USA, and here we have all the UK. So like this, we have three different files now. So we have seen practically how to load the data from single file to a table, but now we have got multiple files. So to process multiple files to a table, so what do we have to do is we have to follow list or indirect file approach. So remember, whenever you have the multiple files to load into a target table, we have to follow list file or indirect file. Both are same. Some people will call it as list file approach. Some people will call it as an indirect file approach. Both are same. What is this list file or indirect file? So list file or indirect file means wherever you have your source files in the same place or in the same directory, you have to create one list file. emp underscore list or emp underscore indirect. So we call this as a list file or indirect file. This is a text document. Okay, and open this file. Inside this file, you have to write all the source file names. emp underscore ind dot csv. So that those are csv files. Okay, and then the second one is emp underscore usa dot csv. emp underscore uk dot csv. Like this, you have to create a list file. Inside the list file, you have to write all the source file names. If there are 3 files, you have to write 3 file names. If there are 10 files, all the 10 file names you have to write inside the list file. Okay, next, in the mapping, what you have to do? So mapping, even though there are multiple source definitions, okay, how many sources we have to import here? We no need to import multiple source definitions. We no need to import multiple source definitions. We just have to import only one source definition, because all the three are having the same structure, right? If the source definitions are having the different structure, then we have to import all the source definitions. But we are sure that emp underscore ind, emp underscore uk, emp underscore usa, all these three are having the same structure. Since they are having the same structure, we don't need to import all three. We just have to import only one. Like that, we have to import the flat file definition, and let's say target table is this. To the same target table we load the data. Tell me, after successful of execution, how many rows we are expecting in the target around after loading those 3 files?
36.
36,000.
Right, so around 36,000 we are expecting. So after successful of execution, this table should have 36,000 rows. Okay, so in the mapping, you should have to import only one flat file definition. While importing flat file definition, in these three, you can select any one flat file definition, and then the target definition, emp training underscore t is the target. Mapping, you will have source definition and the target definition. Okay, and inside the source definition properties, you have to set the date and time. This one, the date time format. And then inside the session task, now here, go to the sources. We have to give the source file path, right? Now we have 3 files. If there is only one file, we can give one file name here. But there are 3 files, and we have created the list file or indirect file. So the file type should not be a direct, it should be indirect. So if you click on direct, so you will get indirect also. We have to select indirect. And since it is an indirect, so we should not give the direct file name. We have to give the text file name, emp underscore list.txt. So here, this is a list file, txt. Okay, so now this knows that if you put here list the source file type as direct, then it will understand this is the file which is having the actual data to load into the target table. If you keep this as an indirect, then it will understand this is not the file which is having the actual data to load into the target table. Okay, so this is the file which is having source file names, or source file names. This is a file which is having the source file names, right? Like that we have to set. Okay, click on apply. Okay, save, start execute. That's it. So if there are multiple files to process, then you have to create one list file or indirect file. There you have to write all the source file names, and inside the session task, source file type you have to set as indirect, source file name you have to set the list file name. Okay, start execute. Start workflow. So I've started execution. It is running. Now we can see we have got 36,000 rows here. Okay, so this is how we can process multiple files data. Row count 36,000. So here this table now contains 36,000 rows. Okay, so that's all.
So if
Now,
we have three source files with different structure, then in that case we have to import all the files, but remaining all are same.
exactly. So if there are different structures, then you have to import all the source flat file definitions. Okay. Now let's say we have got one more new file here. So let's say here we have got another new file. They have opened a new branch and they have sent the new file. So can you tell me, if I execute this workflow, is that going to load that AUS file data also to the target table?
No.
No,
No.
because it's not mentioned in the list file.
Exactly. It is not mentioned in the list file. So to process that file data also to a table, the file name should be added in the list file. Then only it is going to process that new file. Okay. So now here today we have got only one file. Let's say after 1 month we have got another 10 files. To process another 10 new files, we have to add those 10 new file names inside the list file. If you have got 10 files or 20 files, manually you can write it. Okay, sometimes you will get thousands of files. Let's say today we have only 3 files. Let's say after 1 hour across the country they have opened 1000 new branches, and client is going to send every day 1000 new files here. So are we going to type 1000 file names inside that list file? Even though if you type, it is not guaranteed that those 1000 files are fixed. Again, after 2 years, if they have opened another 5000 new branches, and if they are going to send 5000 more files, now this time total 6000 files we have, or 10,000 files we have. So are we going to write 5000 or 10,000 file names inside the list file here? So even though if you start typing, it will take days. And also, even though if you type for days, so sometimes if you write any incorrect spelling like this, if you miss to put A for USA, then again it will miss that file. So is it suggestible to type those many thousands of files? No, right? We cannot write like that. So it is not always we'll be getting 2 files or 3 files. There are some projects where we'll be getting thousands of files. If you are getting 1 file or 2 files, then fine. Manually you can create it and you can write the file name. It will work. But so in some of the projects, we'll be getting thousands of files. Today 5,000, tomorrow 10,000, day after tomorrow 15,000. Like that, every day the file count changes. Then that is called dynamic source flat file reading. Reading the data from dynamic source flat files. Dynamic source flat files means every run the file count changes, source file count changes. Every run the source file count changes. So then in that case, we cannot write every time, every day we cannot modify the list file to add the new file names. Okay, if client says no, lifetime I will be sending only 3 files, or lifetime I will be sending only 5 files, then manually you can create a list file and you can write those 3 file names or 5 file names inside the list file. If client says no, I will not be sending 5 files or 3 files lifetime. Today you have 3 files, tomorrow I may send 1000 files, day after tomorrow I may send 5000 files. And in that case, manually you cannot create a list file. Here comes the Unix shell script scenario. Okay, so here we implement the Unix shell script. So whatever the list file manually we have created, if we are getting thousands of files, we are not going to create a list file. We will be writing one Unix shell script and we will be executing that Unix shell script first. Okay, that Unix shell script, as soon as it is executed, it will go to the source file directory, and there it will create a new file, emp_list like that. After creating a file, whatever the number of files are there, it doesn't matter you have 3 files or 30,000 files. Unix shell script, it will read all the source files and it will write all the source file names inside the list file. Even though if there are thousands of files, within fraction of seconds, it will write all the thousands of file names inside the list file. With that, your list file would be ready. And then we have to execute our session task, which is to read the data from the file. So what it will do is, as soon as the started execution, first it will go to the list file, it will open for the first file, there it will read the data and it will load it to the target. Then again it will come back to the list file, it will take the second file name, it will search for the second file inside the same directory. As soon as the file found, it will start reading the data from the file and it will load into the target table. As soon as third file found, so that will process that file data like that. So even though the thousands of files are there, file by file data it will read and it will load into the target table. Okay, so this is one of the Unix shell script scenario. If there are thousands of files are coming, or if the source file counts are not fixed, or it's a dynamic source flat files, then we have to implement the Unix shell script, and that script has to execute first. And once that script is executed, the file will be ready. Okay, list file would be ready, and then from there you have to start processing source data into the table. So how to use that Unix shell script and what is the code we have read, that we will discuss in Unix class. Again, the same scenario, dynamic source flat file processing, we'll discuss in Unix class. At the end, we'll have the Unix class. So there I will explain the code and this scenario again, where to write the Unix shell script, how to execute that Unix shell script in Informatica. There I will explain. For now, you just practice one file to a table and 3 or 4 files to a table. Okay, this dynamic files. So you just remember, and again we'll discuss this one. That's it. So that's all for the day. We'll continue on Monday evening your time. That is my Tuesday morning. Fine. And last one point. So this table, whatever the table, now we have got 36,000, right? For all your examples, you can consider this as your source table. Now, suppose let's say you are practicing filter transformation. Okay, so filter transformation, we know we have to write a condition, right? For that, you have to create a source table and you have to create a target table. Okay, now to create a filter source table, create table emp underscore flt underscore s1. So let's say in my system already s1 is there. Let me give s4. Okay, so this is a source table as select star from this table. So if you execute this table, this create table query, it will create a new source table with this name, and whatever the data present in this table, everything it will be created. Execute, you can see table got created. Now to practice your filter transformation, so your source table got ready. Now if you execute this table, select star from this table, you have the data now. So if you execute this table query, you have got for filter transformation table also got created. You no need to write any insert statement and all. You just have to write create table, whatever your source table name is there, and as select star from this. For all the table source table, like while you are practicing router transformation, create table emp rtr underscore s1 as select star from this table. Table will be created, and also you will get the huge number of rows inside your source table. And for the target table, same. So you can use this one, but here for the target table T4, okay, and the target table name should be T at the end. And this one we have tried where 1 is equals to 2. That is the difference while creating source and target table. Okay, what is this where 1 equal to 2? So if you execute this one, it will create only target table structure. We don't want to have the data in the target table, right? We want to have the data in only source table. So if you write where 1 equal to 2, it will create empty table. It will not copy the data. If you don't give where class, with the data it will be created. For the source tables, we want with the data. For target table, we don't want data. So now the table structure got created. Now for your source filter transformation, source and target tables are ready. Okay, so now while practicing, what you have to do is you have to write a condition inside the filter transformation to load only country equal to India or country equal to whatever the country, Mexico. So like that, if you write a condition and you can execute that one, so that you will have confidence that you have created the mappings on huge number of data, and you can also feel like in real time you'll have the huge number of data like this, so you will get that feel. No, but also we have different data types of data. So if your mapping also fails, you will come to know why it has failed with the different data types of data and all, how to fix it. All these things you will come to know. Okay, so now in this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, from the beginning, whatever the scenarios I explained, for all those scenarios, you have to create the source table like this. Create source table name as select star from this table. Okay, if you have already created the source table EMBFLT S1, you give EMBFLT S2 or S3, S4 like this, and do practice once again, so that you will get more hands-on experience, right? So the more you practice, you will get more confidence and you will remember long time. Okay, so for all whatever scenarios we discussed till now, again you do practice in this weekend, and for all the source tables you can create the source table like this. Don't give where class. For all the target tables you can give where class like this. And one more point, so here in this target table we don't have primary key, right? So you have to write a alter statement. If you are practicing mapping level update else insert or SAT type 1, you should have primary key constraint on the target. So on employee number you have to write a alter statement to alter the table to add a primary key. If you refer the SQL material, there you have the syntax how to create a primary key if the table is already created. All these things you have to practice, then only you will get more knowledge, right? And in the same way here we don't have in the target table create date, update date, we don't have. So while practicing STD type 1, apart from the source column, we should also have create date, update date, right? So for that again, alter statement, you have to write an alter statement and add create date, update date columns in your target table after creating. First you have to create this target table, same by executing this create table statement. And once the target table is created, now to this, to add a new column create date, update date, you write an alter statement, add create date, update date also, and practice this one. Mapping level update else insert or SRE type 1 lookup, everything. You can also create a lookup on this table, right? So you can consider the target as a lookup, and whatever we did, so there to understand the flow, I explained with this less number of rows. Now you have huge number of rows in the table, and you can practice all those scenarios by playing with this table. Done? Any questions? Clear, right? Okay, fine. That's all for the day. We'll continue on Monday. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.